If India carries out a military operation to take back POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, what will be the reaction of the European Union, especially of America? The reaction will be that of anger, and they will take action. See, Pakistan is a vital territory that is controlled by the West. It has been created artificially for certain geopolitical purposes, which are still being served. Let's take a look at the map. Yeah, sorry. Let me put that on the on the screen. Here's the map. Here we are. So this nation was artificially created by the West, by the British, to cut India off from Central Asia. And because Jammu and Kashmir had acceded to India, they had to ensure that some parts of Jammu and Kashmir also went to Pakistan. And that's how we have been cut off temporarily for now from Afghanistan and Tajikistan and the rest of Central Asia. This was part of the great game, right? So if India takes back POK, India will regain access to Central Asia, which is not good from the eyes of the West, because it's going to create a whole domino effect. The see, essentially Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, all these nations are Russia's strategic backyard. It's part of Russia's exclusive zone of influence. Russia has routine military exercises with all these nations. So if India can access Afghanistan and Tajikistan, then the Russians can build, infrastructure through the region, and they can start accessing the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, which is something the Russians have for centuries wished to do, right? And obviously, India will have to take more than POK back, because the Wakhan corridor is a very mountainous region. We'll need to take essentially northern Pakistan back, which needs to happen anyway. So that would be a disaster from the West, for the West, from their perspective. So if India today carries out a military operation, the West will impose sanctions on India. They will portray us as warmongers. In 1971, George H.W. Bush, the senior Bush, who was then who was a senior official at the time, he called India a warmongering nation in 1971. I have seen an old copy of Time magazine or Newsweek or whatever, in which India was portrayed as a warmonger, in the words of George Bush, the senior George Bush. In 1971, when India was fighting a just war. It was we had gone to war for just causes. It was a war initiated by Pakistan, and still they were calling us warmongers. So if India initiates something, imagine what they will call us. They will most likely impose sanctions on India the way they have imposed on Russia. They may even send aircraft carrier strike groups, and who knows what they will do. So right now it is not the right time for this to happen. We need to ensure that we need to do this when the taking back of POK becomes inevitable. You don't do something when there is a high chance or a high probability of not succeeding. You do something when you are certain of succeeding. That's when you do it. So we have to engineer a situation, a geopolitical situation, where we are so powerful that it is inevitable that we will take it. It should fall into our lap without us even fighting for it. That's what we need to do. The the mark of a true leader is that he or she wins without fighting, and nobody even realizes what happened. That is the greatest victory, when you win without firing a single shot. So India has to maneuver itself into a position over the next decade or whatever, where it is inevitable that this happens. We don't want to carry out a military operation. It should come back to us on its own. So we have to rise to that status where the people of Pakistan, people of POK, start clamoring and begging to be reintegrated with India. Of course, we don't want to reintegrate the whole of Pakistan right now. That may take another 50 or 100 years because of the extreme radicalization there. But POK in northern Pakistan is necessary. We need it back. Yeah, for geostrategic purposes, for geostrategic reasons. So right now is not the right time for this. In the future, things will change. This is a decade of very rapid change. We're going to see very rapid geopolitical changes in this decade, and we need to ensure that we rise economically and militarily over this decade. And I think by the time this decade is out, if we play our cards right, then this could become more or less inevitable. So that's what needs to happen. We don't need to jump the gun and do something which is hasty and ill-advised, and when it's not the right time to do it. We need to be a little patient. It's not going to take a lot of time for us to retake POK and achieve our geopolitical objectives. And these are just causes. These are our territories. They have been our territories for 10,000 years. So it's not like we are stealing someone's territory and doing something wrong.